Hello. Welcome to my stream. So far, there's one person watching, two persons watching. All right, that's great. Hi, hello, Tess. So, welcome everyone who's going to watch live and who's going to watch later. This is ComSat Commentary. I'm Pierre. Hello, Liz. Um, this is a channel where we're going to talk about stuff mostly related to information and communications technology, or ICT, as related to the Philippines. So that's why we decided on a title called ComSat Commentary. We'll be doing it while we're playing a game of ours called that we like a lot. It's called BattleTech. So feel free to comment on the gameplay as well as stuff that we're going to talk about, right? First thing that we're going to the part of the topics that we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about uh, well, prepaid load non-expiry. There's a policy that's being proposed in Congress where uh, those who are using prepaid loads, their loads won't expire anymore. This is similar to those who, uh, if you know of gift checks. So gift checks, there was a recent law regulation that took away their expiry dates. So gift checks don't expire. Now, because of that, a lot of people started saying, if that's true for gift checks, why can't we do it for a prepaid load? And the reason for that is because of the nature of customer management systems and billing systems. They are connected to data centers, and data centers have lots of well, they have hard drives, right? Hard drives and storage has a cost. So, for example, my phone number 092942122136. So that prepaid number is attached to well, information about it, like how much load do I have left. That's primarily the concern of the proposed bills of that nature. So if they're not going to expire, there's going to be a record that's going to be permanent inside those databases. And if they're permanent, you can conceivably have in the future, Liz, come on, you can have in the future several hundred thousand, even millions of records of dormant accounts that's going to occupy storage space, and therefore is going to entail cost inside the data center, which is why it's not going to be reasonable anymore. If an account is permanently dormant, even the Internet Service Providers or the telcos, should be able to remove them from the records anymore, and conceivably, for purposes of efficiency, reuse the numbers that are no longer being used, so that we're not wasting anything. So uh, they should be finite, like they should be deleted at some point from the databases, but at the same time, it's not they have to be, Liz, please, it has to be reasonable. So what we're proposing in Senate, and which we also proposed in Congress last time it was passed, was the dormancy of the SIM must have been at least 1 year. So that means 1 year, uh, 1 year that the SIM isn't being used for either text, calls, or data. Right now, kasi test, the expiry of load is set to 1 year. That's the minimum. Yes, I am here live. I am not a cat. So that's what's going on now. Supposedly, what's being proposed is we're going to we're going to have a policy where 1 year where the SIM has to be unused for text, calls, and data for at least 1 year. So for it to be considered dormant. Okay. When it's now dormant, that's when next you have the uh, you have the system. It says it's dormant, right? It's now going to start reducing the load that's inside the SIM. So for example, if it has 32 pesos left, then the proposal in the Senate is reduce the load by 1 peso per day until it zeroes out. So if it's 32 pesos inside the SIM, then it will take 32 days before it's zeroed out. The owner of the SIM, presumably, he still wants to use it, has to load or has to use the text or has to call using his SIM before it gets deactivated, and then potentially, oh no, I'm getting shot, and then potentially getting reused. So okay, that's essentially just it. What is you get a deduction of 1 peso per day until it's zeroed out, and then it can already be used. So conceivably, you can have 1 year effectively for it to be dormant, and then you start deducting. If he has 1,000 pesos, then that's going to be 1,000 days. But with prepaid, who then uh, then deduction of 1 peso per day. Okay, so that's it. La Chappy. Hello, Jonathan. He's the editor of philstar.com. Really, really smart guy. Okay, so next we're going to talk about, while we're playing, let's see, we're going to now talk about a new bill that's being proposed in the House of Representatives. It's called data rollover, or under Strike Revilla's bill, it's called rollover internet. What's the point? Okay, let's go back a few years. Sometime in 2010, the telcos proposed to the NTC to allow the telcos to establish data caps, right? Meaning, if you have a subscription, you cannot use it as completely as you could. This was the start of the myth of the abusive user. I mean, nobody believes that anymore, because we're trying to maximize all our connections with Netflix, watching YouTube, maximizing our use for e-commerce and for school, right? We're maximizing it now. But in 2010, the telcos were saying, no, you shouldn't maximize your use. You're only supposed to be using it for reasonably, was the term that the telcos used back in the day. In other words, if you go to an eat-all-you-can buffet, you can only eat not all you can, but what they allow you to eat. So that's it. It's not, in other words, it's not real. It's not true. So because the NTC agreed to, they agreed with the telcos, they didn't agree with citizens. Uh, there was a lot of opposition by some citizens back in the day. Please do not allow data caps, NTC. But again, it was the NTC in its wisdom said that no, citizens, you don't deserve unlimited internet. Data caps are supposed to happen. All right. So data caps were implemented 10 years ago. Because data caps were implemented 10 years ago, we have this situation now where congressmen are thinking that if you're not, if you don't, uh, if you don't consume your data allocation, it should be rolled over to the next period. For example, if you subscribed to a data package that was good for 30 days and it was 1 gigabyte, but you only consumed 500 megabytes, your 500 megabytes unused should roll over to the next month, and so on and so forth. So okay, that's not a problem. It makes sense, really. It makes sense until you realize that unlimited rollover is not a good thing. You will hit the laws of physics, you will hit the laws of mathematics, and you can't break the laws of physics. You can't break math. There will come a point where your data allocation exceeds what can be delivered by the service, because data allocation is simply the maximum data allocation really per period is equivalent to your maximum data speed in megabytes per second multiplied by the number of days of the package. So if it's 3 days, you multiply it by 3 days. Then you multiply it by 86,400 seconds per day, right? And then you divide it by 8 bits per byte, so that you're going to get the number of bytes that your service provides you. Then you divide by 10 raised to the 9, or 1 billion, to get gigabytes. So it's just that, it's straightforward. You'll be able to calculate what's the maximum allocation that you can get. Have our promos. Crazy, no? There are no data services anymore. It's just promos. So, okay, that's not an issue. You're still going to get the data connection that you need. It's just not going to be a service. It's just going to be a promo. And how does that affect your laws and regulations? Well, promos are not services. Promos don't last forever. Services are supposed to continue on, right? Services are supposed to continue. For example, you don't say 3 days, you don't say 30 days, and so on. You just turn it on, and then that's your service. So there's no such thing as a data service, whether for prepaid or postpaid. It appears, to access data services, which are not calls and text, you have to subscribe to the data service. This is not unusual, because data is not have to anymore. It's going have to anymore. It's going to the limits are going to be set by themselves, by the promos themselves. So for example, you have a promo continue just as it is. Hala, Tess. My God, PLDC. Yeah. Also, that's what happens. I am not live. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so that's what's going on with uh, the rollover data allocation. It's probably going to get out of the technical working group very soon. Uh, there's not much there's not much opposition to it, except by the telcos, of course, because they're trying to protect their business. But well, what that's the only issue that's remaining, really, that uh, that there shouldn't be any limits. What the telcos want also, by the way, is that the promos are exempted. Promos are exempted and only services be allowed to roll over. But the point is, everything that they have is promos. So if they're going to, if they're going, if that this is really funny, if they're going to accept promos, that means everything that we use is not uh, covered by the law. So that's a little bit of clever lobbying on their part. I don't think it's going to be allowed. The co-chair of the technical working group, Congressman Kiko Benitez, was particularly strict about that. He wants everything to be covered, not just promos, but not just services, but all promos and services. So that's it for rollover data allocation. Kind of simple, isn't it? My God, PLDC. Yeah, Tess. Or maybe it's Cat's fault. I don't know. Liz is underneath. Yeah, that's my cat, Senadora. All right. So there's this. I hate it when I have leftover data that can't be carried over. Well, that's the whole point of the bill. So it all began with data caps kasi. And now that the it turns out people aren't happy with data caps, that's why right now you have this situation where they want to roll over everything that's unused. So yeah, there's another bill that's pending in the House ICT committee. I haven't seen yet the Senate version of it. It's the regulation of facial recognition technology. It's actually pretty good. This bill, the way it's written, because the author of the bill, Congressman Rufy Biazon of Muntinlupa, he actually took a middle ground. He didn't say, he did not say ban all ban all facial recognition technology. That's not what he said. He also did not say uh, that you need to uh, not regulate facial recognition. He went for the middle ground that it has to be regulated as it comes along, because it's still emerging. You don't know what to regulate. But it's true. It's true. He picks up on the points that are being discussed internationally about how facial recognition could potentially be used against citizens, invade privacy, and so forth. But he also recognizes that facial recognition can have useful useful invited only law enforcement people, essentially. People who are interested in looking at facial recognition for purposes of law enforcement, which is very typical. You want you these are the kinds of people who want to have the ability to, well, the shortcuts, which unfortunately our police force is very well known for. And Congressman Biazon hasn't invited the ICT rights advocates or privacy advocates, of which there's a significant number in the Philippines anyway, and we we're hoping that this situation changes when the bill is going to be heard again. So hopefully the discussion comes up, and Congressman Biazon brings in viewpoints of other people, which he should anyway. And let's see how it works out in committee. Speaking of bills that are interesting or even being lobbied by our law enforcement people, again, this Congress, there's this move to make SIM registration mandatory. Laging live video interrupted, huh? Huh. It's not just you, it's me. No, my connections also drops, but I don't think it's related to the connection really. Maybe it's the software or my device. Let's see. Stress testing nga lang. So yun, again, this SIM registration has come up again. People are, the Senate is particularly interested in SIM registration again, despite the fact that ICT advocates have already, many times said that SIM registration isn't really useful for for law enforcement purposes. It doesn't help. It doesn't help much, really. So, there's the experience of Mexico that in 2009, right? I take suggestions on how to further improve his bill, because it's already a good start. It's not it's much better naman kasi than the Senate version. The Senate version that was filed by Senator Ontiveros focused on the funny, no? Focused on the spectrum of telcos. But that's the thing. That's really weird because, telcos are only like less than a fraction of 1% when you're talking about spectrum of telcos. There's a lot of users of spectrum. You have navigation, cable TV, you have the military, law enforcement, you have broadcasters of TV, of AM radio, of FM radio. There's so many. So all of those people have to be brought together to discuss how to manage spectrum, and well, uh, we're going to want to be part of that discussion, especially since we have to remember spectrum is we own it. If the telcos ever tell you that they own spectrum, they're lying. They do not. Spectrum is owned by the Republic of the Philippines and the people in it. It cannot and should not be treated as things that the ISPs, that the telcos can sell as assets. They are not. They shouldn't be treated that way. And it is because of that, that way that's treated, that we're left with the situation today. Back in the day, maraming telco, nag-consolidate sila for purposes of consolidating spectrum. And ayun, we're left with a duopoly and a new player who has yet to start. So how can we get people interested in issues related to spectrum management? That's tough kasi it's a very technical bill, no? Siguro the best way na lang is to get people interested in how the House of Representatives Committee on ICT or the House or the Senate Committee on Public Services, the bills that are put in front of them related to ICT. So let's see. If people are interested, definitely there'll be coverage, and there'll be people who will do a better job of explaining all of these things. It's always useful for for somebody, a third party, or basta a fresh set of eyes to explain how things are working. Ayun, and we have 5 minutes left. Kaya naman siguro. On February 17, there's going to be a hearing in the House of Representatives Child Welfare Committee. So this is the committee that's in charge of, well, good things for our kids, right? And one of the things that's going to be discussed, well, the primary talk on February 17 will be about the Anti-Child Pornography Act, RA 9775, and the frustrations of a lot of telcos, or well, telcos, ISPs, frustrations of law enforcers on how to fight child porn. Akala ko birthday party. No, it's not a birthday party. Why would I have a birthday party in the House of Representatives, diba? That's crazy. So, they're going to try to discuss what's written in RA 9775. RA 9775 naman was written without understanding how the internet works, right? And without anticipating that new technologies would come out. Okay, sige. Ganun talaga, that's the way it is. Minsan ang daming mga bagong means of committing crimes as new technologies are brought out, right? So okay. Some of the another death. So one of the things that's written in the bill is that mandatory maglagay ng blocking and filter yung mga ISPs. Okay, no birthday party in my house. Are you kidding me? So yon, blocking and filtering. Now the interesting thing is this bill was enacted in 2009, right? Guess what happened in 2014? In 2014, there was this case called Dicini versus SOJ versus Secretary of Justice, which among other things said that you have to get a court order from a judge before you block a website, you take down a website, things like that, which is reasonable. That's how it's done in other countries. Ayun, that's supposed to happen. So there's this rule in the courts or in law that whatever is mas latest, yun yung dapat na that's what you follow, right? And because Dicini versus SOJ came in 2014, the court order requirement for takedown, for blocking, for filtering has to be followed. They have to take a court order first. That's not what 9775 says. 9775 says you just provide a list to the NTC and NTC will take it down. Again, that's not what it says. But hey, it'll be up to the ISPs to challenge that. But more importantly, for the ISPs, there's something that the congressmen are saying. It's not it's not what's the word? It's not recorded anymore. It's not you cannot catch them after the fact. Kasi meron na tayong mga streaming services like this one, right? It's live. What some congressmen are saying, hindi ba pwedeng maglagay ng monitoring software na lang? Monitoring software so that pag may na-monitor sila, they will take it down or they'll arrest or something. There's going to be a response. Basta yun na nga. Na detect na monitor na. And the question to the telcos is, kaya nyo bang gawin? Is it possible for you to install monitoring services so that they can monitor everybody? The answer is yes, it can be done. You can install monitoring and surveillance software. North Korea does it. People's Republic of China does it. They're able to monitor the internet use of their citizens. But that's the point. To be able to perform what the congressmen want, we have to establish surveillance and monitoring already. So that's the point. Next week we're going to watch our congressmen talk about performing surveillance stuff, monitoring stuff for the children. And while it's easy to fall into the trap of surveilling because for the children nga, we ought to be smarter than that. We ought to be more aware of our rights. We don't want law enforcement monitoring us, for no reason at all. If they really want to monitor us, if they really want to surveil us, kumuha muna sila ng warrant, right? And that's what's supposed to be done. Hindi yung tipong we have to monitor everybody for the children. That doesn't work that way. Ayun. So that's it for this week's ComSat Commentary. You can leave comments here on this Facebook page, or which I'm reading right now live, or you can leave it on the YouTube channel where it is, and then maybe next week we can get to them. Let's see if there's anything interesting that we can discuss next week. So that's it for now. This is Pierre. I'm going to say goodbye for now and get back to my game.